Welcome again, and thank you for joining our Global Webinar Day here at Infosim. Our topic today is hands-on NCCM. My name is Dietmar Kneidl, Director of Sales Europe with Infosim, and I will be moderating today's event. Joining us from our headquarter office here in Würzburg is my colleague Hendrik Degener, one of our senior developer and consultants. Hendrik has been with us for almost 5 years now. He's worked for Siemens and Fujitsu before joining our ranks, and he has a master's degree in computer science. So good afternoon, Hendrik.
Good afternoon, everybody.
All right. Before I hand over control to Hendrik, just a couple of things that are on my list. As usual, everybody is muted when joining our audience to keep down the background noise. So if you have questions, and we hope you do, please type them in the questions or chat window of the GoToWebinar application. And we're going to be taking care of all your questions either directly in the chat or at the end in our Q&A session. Also, we're recording this event, and since you have registered, you will get a quick email tomorrow with a link to that recording. And an additional note, since we have added a little bit more content regarding the WANNACRY virus, we will most probably overstep our time limit by about 10-15 minutes, but the WANNACRY content is going to be placed at the end of the webinar, so if that's not of your interest, you might as well leave in case you don't have any free time and another appointment. All right, well, that's all from my end, so I'm turning over to our presenter, Hendrik. Hendrik?
Thank you, Dietmar. So then let's kick this off. Today will be lots of live action. It's about tagging in NCCM and which new features you can use there. Then we will talk about the device info commands and about a not so well-known topic, the backup and restore scripts, which are pretty mighty if you know how to use them. And at the end, as Dietmar already said, we will handle the topic WANNACRY and how you do not want to cry. So let's kick this off with the first live demo about the tagging in NCCM and StableNet. So before we can do that, we have to discover a respective device. So I will quickly do that. Enter the IP, choose my agent, then I will leave the default community string. I will type in my password that is used throughout the webinar. Then I will quickly end the wizard and wait for StableNet to do its magic. So while StableNet is discovering, I just want to drop a few notes about the tagging. For those of you who might not know this, it's a mechanism to flexibly categorize and allocate pieces of information to many objects in StableNet, such as devices. And of course, you can put the tags on those objects by hand, like I can show you now, since we have this device now correctly discovered. So you can add the tags via this dialog, for example, add categories and multiple values for them, but you can also use the XML discovery for it. And I will quickly show you how this is done. So this is my discovery job that I can use for this. The interesting thing is the discovery template. So let's take a look at this discovery template. So it's the hands-on discovery XML. So that's a very small template which just discovers my device, the newly discovered one. It will rediscover it in this case. And then we have this tag import element, which means it will grab a value from this SNMP OID in this case. So I will directly draw a value from the SNMP tree and save it as a value in the tag category hands-on NCCM Linux build. So let's do this. I will start the job and wait for it to finish. while this job is running, I can show you how, well, let's wait for it to finish, and then we can do our next steps. In the next seconds, there will appear new text on the right side, and this is the one which is of relevance. In this case, this is our hands-on NCCM Linux build, and the OID value has directly been taken from the SNMP tree. So that's very nice, because we now have the ability to also import such text automatically, and of course we can reuse those tags in our NCCM. For example, in the configuration jobs. So I've prepared one for you, and let's take a look at this one. So the device is selected using tags as well. So as you can see here, I have created an equals value filter, and the tag category is my device name, and the filter value is my device name. And so every device that's named like this will be in scope. I can click the preview button, and I can see, okay, this is my and this device will be part of my job. If I do not want to create an equals value filter, I can, for example, also use a direct selection from the tree, which I can show you here. So I can select this one, press OK, and then StableNet automatically generates a tag filter based on my selection. Preview again, same result. So let's take a look at the even more interesting template, the hands-on NCCM template. So what do we have here? So basically, we now can access the tag values using this replacement variable. So like DB variables or ref values, we are able to, using this syntax, to grab the value behind this tag category and use it. In this case, I just loop over the value, and I loop over items splitted by this white space. The respective split items are then stored in this tag value ref variable that I can use here. In every loop iteration, I send an echo command with the respective tag value. Of course, I can also access the single value like this, for example. So what will happen? I will have multiple lines splitted by the white space character, and then I will have a single line with this single value in the end. So let's take a look if StableNet behaves as I just explained it. Let's start this and take a look at the result, which should be here in like 1 second. Okay, 3 seconds. So let's take a look at what happened. So we can see that we have this single value in the end, which you can see here. And then I've split it using the white space character, and everything is echoed in a single line. So, and what you can do with this is you can, for example, create different conditional logic using, for example, this information, like we have a 64-bit system, we have a Red Hat Linux, and so on, so that you can implement your custom configuration logic if you want. So that's how you can use tags, for example, in NCCM. Okay, that was our kickoff example for the NCCM, and now let's talk about device info commands. So many, or some of you might know them. We offer them for some time now. It offers the possibility to flexible grab information from a device, and so you can extract backups and get even more information. Furthermore, device info commands offer the functionality to optimize your backup analysis by giving you the possibility to hide irrelevant information when you compare backups that have already been grabbed from the device. So, time for the next live demo. How does such a device info command work? Basically, let's take a look at CDP neighbors device info command. You give it a name, and then you just tell the device what you want to have. In our Cisco example here, you can also see that we only that this device info command is applied to Cisco devices. The syntax is show CDP neighbors. The communication between the device and also the login is handled by StableNet, so you can focus on what you want to achieve and not how you can achieve the whole thing around issuing the actual command. The good thing about device info commands is that StableNet handles the allocation to the device. So StableNet manages which device info command will be applied in a backup job. So it uses such a filter for this. So this device info command is applicable on every Cisco device, for example. And during a backup job, it will be applied on every Cisco device that is part of the backup job. So let's take a look at what happens when I now execute such a backup job on a device selection like this. You can preview it. Okay, you can see, oh, it's a Cisco device, so on this device info command will be executed. So let's start the job and see what happens. We will have a new entry in the CDP neighbors section soon. So job was executed successfully, and because there was no change in the backup, we do not have a new entry, but we now have a new date because we now see, okay, between those dates the backup stayed the same. But CDP neighbors are also a good example on how some backups might be pretty equal to other backups, but not completely, because you sometimes have those nasty timestamps. In CDP neighbors, it's, for example, the hold time, which is not of big relevance when you have when you compare a backup, for example. So when I compare those two backups, for example, I can see, okay, there is a change, and it's in this line. But actually, the difference between these two lines is only the hold time, which I basically want to ignore. So device info commands support you in doing this. So we have two possibilities. We can ignore a whole line when you compare backups. This also means that if this line is matched, then there will not be a new backup, because stable and you do not put too many entries in your database and load it up with irrelevant data. You can ignore the whole line or only partial elements of the line. So I prepared a partial line matcher, so which means I only want to ignore a partial element of this line. So this expression looks pretty complicated, but basically it's only like this. Let me just reposition this one. So it's white space, no white space, white space, no white space, white space, and digits. And the digits are in a capture group, which tells the partial line matcher, okay, this is the stuff I want to ignore, or I have to ignore. So applied on this configuration, you can see, okay, white space, no white space, white space, no white space, white space, and here come the digits. So this will match, and this is exact, will match the digit section, so what's marked here, and I want to ignore this. And we can now see the effect of this. So if I apply the ignore measures, I see, oh, okay, I can ignore both of the changes below and only focus on the top change. So what is changed here? Okay, I can see here's a 5, there's a 4. So there was a relevant change in the section. So you can optimize your whole workflow with such matchers. and the database is also a little bit relieved. So that's about device info commands. However, it's not always that easy. So sometimes you have some exotic devices which we maybe do not support yet. They might be buggy concerning their SSH implementation, or there might be exotic APIs that you want to use. For example, SOAP. It's very flexible, but it's you do not have a real standard, and so you sometimes need more control about the whole process. And for this, we have our backup and restore scripts. So those scripts are pretty arbitrary executable scripts. So you can use any language you like Bash, PowerShell, Java, Perl, etc. And those scripts are executed on the StableNet server, and you can handle the communication to the device that you want to back up or you want to restore yourself. Furthermore, which is pretty cool, those scripts have a very simple API. So it's very easy to tell StableNet about the data that you want to pass to it. So let's take a look at how we can do this. We should start with a little Hello World example. So a backup script must contain actually one line. So this line tells StableNet what's going on. The first number tells StableNet if the backup succeeded or if it did not. So if you print 0, StableNet knows, okay, something was wrong here. A 1 means everything is okay. The second number means, okay, one line in this case will be part of the backup. And the last element tells StableNet how the backup is called. So what you can also do, for example, is you can execute multiple backups via just one script. So if I put it like this, StableNet will put this line into the Hello World backup and this line into the Hello World 2 backup. But let's stick to one line for now and take a look at how this behaves. So I've prepared the respective job. We can see here, okay, this is my device selection. I again chose to use an equals value filter on the device name and the respective backup script. By the way, I used Python for this one because it's pretty hyped language, I would say, over the last years, and Google likes it, so why not use Python, just because we can. And now the device selection, you can see, okay, I had to use the same filter here. So I don't like this at the moment, so I want to reuse a filter. So what we can do with StableNet 8 is we can define or we can predefine filters. So I will name this Uturna, and now I will save my equals value filter so that I do not have to type it. Okay, that's a very easy filter, but it might be complex because you can chain several OR filters and AND filters, exist tags filters, and many more to exactly grab what you want. And now I saved my filter that I use throughout this webinar, and I can see, okay, I will get one device when I use this filter, which is exactly what I want. So I will save the whole thing, and now I have a new filter here, and I now can use this filter in my device selection. So I will just get rid of this one. I will access this filter via reference filter for now, so which gives me the possibility to reuse this filter in several in my if I want to, for example, add more devices to this filter in this job, I can use an OR filter for that. For example, now I can use my reference filter and I can add another device from the tree, maybe this one, which I do not want, but it's possible. So this is a possibility, and I can also use just this use an existing filter, and then I also have what I want. So, but now let's execute this Hello World example. I can see, okay, this is my device which this whole thing will be applied to. The backup script Hello World will now be executed on the StableNet server using using the Python installed there, and we can see, okay, there's a polite script which tells me hello StableNet. So that's exactly how we wanted it to behave, and we can also see that we have a new entry in our backup tree, and we can see, okay, the backup has also made it into this backup tree. So that's a backup script, and now let's take a look at a little more advanced script, because this Hello World script does not do much. So what we can do here is we create an SSH connection to the device and do some commands. So what's done? So we import the necessary libraries, and then we can access the context that this script runs in. StableNet will automatically feed us with relevant data, so we can, by standard in, so that's what's done here. We can get, or we will get, a string which looks like this. So we get an XML which tells us, okay, this is the current device which is processed. So this is the name, that's the operating system. We have certain CLI configuration. You can see that my user that I typed in before, which is webinar, has the password hands-on, and we can use this information to handle the communication to the device ourselves via the script. We will also get all the device info commands which apply to this device as well. So we will get much information, so which enables us to handle a complete backup logic using such a script if the default StableNet backup mechanisms are not enough in our respective use cases. So we will get this XML in here, and then we can extract relevant information. In this case, we will extract the device name, we will extract the username and the password, then we will build an SSH client and connect to the device, and then we will execute this command. This command gives us the content of all files which match this pattern on the system. So all ifconfig files in the network scripts folder. And that's basically what the script does. It reads out this content. Then it saves it in this variable, and then we have to apply to our syntax that StableNet that you need to provide for StableNet. So we tell StableNet everything is good. We will provide it the line count of the commands, so basically the command length, and we will tell StableNet to put this into into a backup named backup. Then we will print the whole thing, and then we are done. So let's take a look at what happens when I execute the script. In my device selection, I can I have this filter from before. I can now switch to the existing filter, which I now have. I did not have before, so which makes it easier in future. Maybe I want to change the filter, and then I do not have to apply or change the filter maybe in reporting and in whatever jobs I want to use this filter in. So you can use this, reuse this filter throughout the whole product. This is also what we call grouping. just for you to know. And then the backup script that I just showed is selected, and so I press OK and I start my job. So this script was now executed on the StableNet server. I can see, okay, successful, and now you can see the content of two files which match my pattern on the system. So I basically grabbed my network card configuration. So that's what I did here, and we can also take a look at the device backups. We see, okay, there's a new backup here, and my files have made it into this. And now, there might come the day when I want to restore the whole thing. For this, I can use a restore script. A restore script looks pretty similar to our backup script. So as you can see here, we import some libs again. We will get the backup data that we want to restore again in an XML format, which I parse here. I extract my my device name, username, password, build my client as before, and now I store the backup data that I receive from StableNet in this variable. I will loop through the let's do it like this. Okay. Does not work as expected. We will take a look. We will loop over those sections basically. That's what the code does. So if there's a section like this, we will put extract the file name, which is done here. We will extract the content of the section below, and in the end, we will restore the content of the whole. We will restore the content to the respective files. And for this example, I also appended a little comment so that we can see there that the actual restore really just happened using the script. So, and if we execute the whole thing again using the restore script, so we cannot see anything now because all the magic happened on the device. But if we now run the backup job again, we can take a look at what comes back and if the restore really happened. Okay, as you can see here, I did not select any device, so that's my fault. I should have used this filter that I just created a little earlier, as you can see here. So it's a good idea to create stable tag filters so that you really get what you think you get. So, and now I will restart the job. You can pay attention now. Okay, my device is now really selected. I restore, and now we also get a succeeded, which we did not have before. So, and actually we should have gotten a, okay, that's interesting. So we had a run in we already had one run of this webinar where everything worked as expected. So sorry for this. I cannot tell what happened, so I would have to take a look at the script, which is now out of scope of this webinar. I'm sorry for that. So we will we have to skip this. Yes.
One of our audience members is suggesting to rerun the backup.
Yeah, I did. Oh, I rerun the restore. Okay, that's funny. I think I wanted to do this the whole time. So thanks for for that comment. So okay, so this is a live demo as it should be.
We
So
would like to
I'm a
thank
little,
Phil and Steve. Thank you very much.
yeah,
They both
thank you for
spotted
that. So yeah, I clicked on the wrong job, and now you can see, okay, if you're doing it right, it works right. So it's changed in the hands-on webinar by StableNet, so that's what we wanted to have. Okay, so now I've embarrassed myself, but I hope you now understand a little better how to write backup and restore scripts in StableNet. Okay, so we're done with this one. Everybody leaving us now, I want to wish you a good day. And for everybody who wants to stay, we will now talk about the WANNACRY virus, which has raised considerable attention during the last week. And what we want to do is we want to check if there are vulnerable devices in our network. So the WannaCry virus attacks Windows systems and it causes serious damage. The good thing though is that there are patches available. So what we have to do is we have to find out the devices that do not have the respective security patches by Microsoft installed. So that's the task that we want to achieve, and in the next and final live demo I want to show you how you can do this. So I've prepared a Windows 2003 server for you which is vulnerable. StableNet has the built-in functionality to grab the installed software. So if you have correctly configured your WMI, so it uses WMI for this, and if you have this correctly configured, you are able to see the installed software in here. So we can use this. We want to check if the respective security patch is not in this list. So how can we do this? There are basically two possibilities in StableNet. We can write a business process script and use the fault management engine of StableNet to create respective alarms if we cannot if we cannot find such a script such a patch in the software list, or we can use the backup engine of StableNet. So we will treat the software as a backup, and then we can run policy checks and vulnerability checks on the data. So I will choose the latter one because getting the software into here allows you to also diff the installed software, for example. So you can see if there was a software change going on, you can run reports on which software is installed and so on. So it might be a good idea to have it in here. So the main thing or the main task that we have to achieve is getting the software into a device backup. So what we will do now is we will take a look at the group analyzer and use one of our group analyzer tables. So here we can see, okay, this is my list of installed software that I have, and we can see that we have the product name here. So what we can do now is we can filter this a little bit so that we only get what we want, and we can now see here, okay, this is my, these are my installed software packages on the respective systems. So now we need to access this data. We can access this using such a link. And now via an ordinary browser, we can see, okay, we have to get this data machine readable. So what we will now do is we will append a different parameter which causes that this data is made available via CSV. What my browser now does is it downloads this CSV file. So the data that I have here are now stored in this file, for example. So we will use this mechanism in another backup script, so that we will grab the information from the StableNet server and put it in the respective system's backup tree entry. In the future, we also plan to make this available via REST API, for example, so that it's a little more comfortable to grab this software. I've already prepared a backup script for this one as well, so we can see it here. So this time I chose to use Bash because it's a little, shorter, and just want to show you how flexible we are. So what we do here is we read the whole content to standard in using this, using regular expressions this time, which are chained. I do not want to drill into every expression. I just want to, tell you that this will extract the device name from the XML, and then we use a link, such a link that I just created in this script. And what this does, it grabs the CSV and only leaves all the entries which match my current device name, and then it stores it in this software variable. Then I will count the lines here, and then because I have to fulfill the StableNet backup API, and then I will tell StableNet, okay, everything's good, we have the respective line count, and you please store this into the installed software backup. And then I will output all what's inside. So
You did mute yourself, or did you just... No, I can't hear. Well, I can hear you, Hendrik, because you're sitting next to me, but other than that, I cannot hear you. Just give us a second. Hendrik is restoring his sound. And in case that doesn't work, we will have to switch places.
I think it's
you're back.
Should work now.
You're back.
Okay, so little sound crash, sorry for that. So one embarrassment is not enough. We have to have some more problems here. So I think you lost me when I wanted to start the respective job that I've prepared. So I'm using this get software shell script. I will apply this on all the WannaCry devices, potentially vulnerable WannaCry devices in my system. So I create a predefined, this time I really predefined it, such a filter. And what you can see here is that this filter will give me all the devices in my network whose operating system is XP, 8, or Windows 2003. And if I now run a preview, I see that it's empty. So basically, CDP ID, operating system Windows 2003. So okay, that was strange. So I have to say that I'm working on a development machine, so there might be something strange happening here, which is not officially in the product. So sorry for that as well. And now let's just start the job before any more troubles appear. And let's do this. We can see, okay, we have this device, the vulnerable Windows 2003 server. Okay, so I can see it was successful, and I grabbed the software now from StableNet and saved it to a backup, which now also appears here. So what I can do now, I can select such a bulletin or such a number, such a patch number, for example, and directly create a config snippet out of this. So which I could now name WANNACRY patch. Then I have to just edit this this number using the correct value that that the patch of Microsoft is named. Then the target is already correct. It's installed software. Then I tell StableNet, okay, that's a plain text match, and there's also no section matching because it's just a plain backup. And I set my severity to critical, for example. So that's how you can easily create a config snippet, which you can then reuse in a policy check job. I've already prepared that, though, in an already existing policy check job. I, again, referenced my WANNACRY devices because I'm lazy. I do not want to re-specify the whole thing all over again. And my snippet selection is like this. We can show what's done here. So it's the WANNACRY snippet targeting installed software with the correct patch name. And what happens now when I run this job on my vulnerable server is that I see, okay, we have a policy violation, which is pretty critical, and we can also take a look at the details, and we see, okay, there's a missing patch on this device. So that's pretty nice, or well, it's not, because it's vulnerable, and then you can notify the respective persons to take action. And that's one strategy on how you can check your network for potentially vulnerable devices, which are vulnerable to WANNACRY. Okay, and that's it for the WANNACRY section. And we can now come to the Q&A.
Thank you, Hendrik. You had me giggling with all your hiccups. Very, very funny. At least from my point of the table, so might not have been that funny for you. I've uploaded the slides for this webinar, so if you want to download those, feel free to do that right now. We can also, put that in the chat before, we can also send you the script files we've used in this webinar. Just write an email to kneidl@infosim.net, put that email address in the chat, just an empty email, and then I'll know, all right, you want those scripts. There's a number of questions, Hendrik, that I picked up during the webinar that I think might be of interest to our audience, as 2, 3 of them, 4 of them actually. Well, the fourth is, can I get the scripts? Yes, you can, just said that. And the first question I have here is from an audience member that is not able to activate WMI on his Windows machines due to company policy or other restrictions. So if you cannot activate WMI, are there any alternatives?
Yes, there are alternatives. You can, for example, use the PowerShell from Microsoft PowerShell, which is able to access such devices from outside. And if this is also not possible due to whatever restrictions that you face, then it's also then it might be an option to use our StableNet agent for this, so that you install a StableNet agent on the respective machines, maybe a client agent, and use this to get the respective information. But I think the the exact details of this approach are a little beyond the scope of this webinar. So if you need more details on how to do this, I have an example script for the PowerShell approach, and I can also tell you about the agent approach.
Okay, so in that case also just send us a quick email. There is one question that actually popped up twice regarding the device info commands. Is there a way to send multiple commands via a device info command?
Yes, absolutely. So I can also quickly show this. So if I have my CDP neighbors here, you can see that there's only one line, but normally, or in most use cases, it's it's okay to have just one line. But if you have to issue multiple commands, you can just press the edit button, and now you have a text list editor, and then you can insert any command that you like and any amount of commands that you like. So let's, we can, for example, take this device info command, which shows me the current timestamp, and you can also see here that it's that there are already 4 items. So which basically all do the same. They grab the current timestamp from my Linux system, and if I now run a backup against my Linux system that I discovered before, then you can see that we should have a new entry generated in here, which is just show me the current timestamp, and now we can see we have 4 lines, which resembles to our 4 commands that we saved in this device info commands, and all of them are executed on the machine. So very, very possible. And just one more comment: the CDP neighbors is a good, it's a good example on how powerful the device info commands are and which useful information you can extract. And we also have a bunch of predefined device info commands for you. And if you want to get access to them, just contact us.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. And there is one last question that targets the backup and restore script. One of our audience members wanted to know if there's a way that he can configure an ignore line matcher on the default backups that StableNet provides.
So on the backup and restore scripts. So I think what he might mean is, okay. So there are, in StableNet, StableNet comes with many predefined backups. So something like this. So we have this this router on the router lab, and but this is built in. So you do not have a device info command for this one. So it is basically, you might think it is not possible to to apply an ignore line matcher on this one, because also here, for example, you have timestamps which might be of no relevance for the actual backup. So you might want to ignore them, and so how to do this? I guess that's what this question means. And you can do this with a little trick. It's totally possible to create an item and a device info command named backup. So we set this to inactive, so that because if I set this to active, it will override the default backup for the affected devices. So I set it to inactive, and I can set this to empty, for example. I can write anything in here. It's just because I have to write something in here because it's required by the device info command. And then I have the possibility to specify my ignore line matchers here, nevertheless. And now, if I apply a config diff on such a backup, I can, like here in the CDP neighbors, I only have one backup, that's why I cannot show it. I can apply this ignore line matcher, and the ignore line matcher from the backup device info command, the pseudo backup device info command that I just created, will be applied. So that's a little trick that is that might not be well known, how you can ease your work also with default backups.
Okay, very cool. All right, well, we have more knowledge and more information about StableNet. If you advance another slide, Hendrik, or two more. Thank you.
Well, I just
Yeah,
wanted to say thank you.
thank you. We have a lot more resources in our resource section, so if you need more information, feel free to dive in that section and help yourself. And Hendrik, thanks very much for the session. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Again, we're going to send you a quick email tomorrow with a detailed recording of all of Hendrik's mistakes and all the rest of this webinar. So I guess that's all for us, all from us today. So we again apologize for overstepping our boundaries for quite some time, but we thought it might be worth it. Our next global webinar day is on June 29th. Invite's going to be sent out within the next 2 weeks. It's going to be most probably be dealing with what happened at Cisco Live or what's new from Cisco Live. If you don't get the invites from us, mail us at newsletter@infosim.net and we'll add you to our distribution list. Again, thanks for joining and enjoying the rest of your day. Goodbye.